Hi everyone. Um, just coming back to give another update and to kind of talk about what I've been thinking about and what's been catching my interest recently. Um, I am going to give an update about what's going on with me medically, but at the end of the video, so if you want to skip me talking and get right to that, you can go for it. Um, But first, I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about um, some stuff that's been really capturing my attention recently. And that's been with like physics and science and the uh, dawn and death of our universe. And I think that stuff is um, so interesting and so profound. There's only been um, recently, the last couple decades even, that we've really gotten the clearest picture of the first few minutes of our universe and predictions about the end of our universe. It's really been in the last couple of decades that we've gotten a kind of a solid grasp on it. And the reason that I bring this up is because I think that there's so much beauty in this secular way of thinking about the dawn of creation and how our universe is built and how our place in that universe. Um, and I bring this up, and I am not bashing anyone's beliefs. I'm not bashing religious teachings or anything like that. I think that kind of going through some of this stuff really illustrates how beautiful and how divine the universe actually is and our place in that. Um, so the first thing that I want to kind of get at is kind of acclimating people to thinking in this way, right? Because when you're talking about the universe, you're talking about such large measurements that they are unfathomable. And when you're talking about, the beginning of the universe and working at things on, a quantum mechanical scale, it's things that are so small that we can't even comprehend. So, some of the numbers that I'm going to be talking about are, you know, huge, right? So, like a million is one with 6 zeros, and a billion is a one with 9 zeros. A trillion is one with 12 zeros. And so for us, we can say, all right, that's all well and good. And we're kind of like acclimated to hearing those numbers, when we hear about Jeff Bezos's wealth and the defense budget. And, we're kind of used to hearing these numbers in trillions and billions. And so they've kind of lost their impact. But it really is incredible the scale of those numbers and what they actually mean. For a lot of us, if we're going to equate this to money, a lot of us, our furthest hopes is, someday I'm going to be a millionaire, right? And being a millionaire is, having one more dollar than 999,999. That's one more dollar. $100,000 isn't that much, right? Most houses cost at least $100,000, if not more. And then you have houses that cost $1 million. You have cars that cost $1 million. All these things. So when you step that up and you talk about a billion, all right. So that is, you have one more dollar than 999,000 billion, 999,999. And there's a great TikTok, and I suggest that you look it up, that shows Jeff Bezos' wealth in relation to grains of rice. And I don't remember, this was the guy who did this TikTok did a video before the pandemic and then during the pandemic about how much money Jeff Bezos made on the pandemic itself at that point in time. And so they had grains of rice, and each singular grain of rice was $100,000. So for me, a single grain of rice would wipe out most of my student debt. For other people, it could buy a house, it could buy a car, it could buy groceries for their entire year. You know, just one grain of rice, $100,000. And ultimately, I want to say it was, calculating like $30 billion of Jeff Bezos' wealth, something like that. So it went from $100,000, each grain of rice is $100,000. So that is 1 with 5 zeros. 1 0 0 0 0 0. 5 zeros. And just $30 billion made up of those $100,000 grain of rice needed 52 pounds of rice to make 30 billion. 52 pounds of rice. This huge pile. And the guy, made points of, taking a handful of rice and saying, this is Jeff Bezos's $17 million new apartment in Manhattan. And he took it to the side and he was like, it didn't even make a dent, right? And so for us, I think that we need a lot of visual representations to really get to these numbers. And so even with Jeff Bezos's $30 billion, the 52 pounds of rice, that is nowhere touching a trillion. Because remember, $1 trillion is 1 with 12 zeros. So Jeff Bezos only has 3 in this scenario, right? 3, 0, and then 9 zeros. So he has only 10 zeros in his wealth. So he's missing, significant exponential degrees of shifting this to become a trillionaire, right? And that's kind of where our, when we talk about our, debts and stuff, they're in the trillions of dollars. I think that we are $17 trillion in debt, and that is just a mind-boggling number. So try and keep that in relation to when I'm going to talk about some distances and some time measurements. If you could keep that in mind in terms of money, something that everybody is hyper focused on and knows exactly what it is, but keep that in terms of the distances that we're going to be talking about, right? Because it gets crazier and crazier. So first thing is the Earth to the Sun is 94 million miles, just about. And that is also how we use that as our astronomical units, right? So that is 1 astronomical unit. So 94 million miles. And the way that we gauge the way that we gauge distance at larger scales is by light years, right? So it's like almost miles per hour, but with light and distance. So in order for the light to get to from our sun to Earth over that 94 million miles, it takes about 8 minutes. So that means that the speed of light is around 300,000 miles per second. Every second, light photons travel 300,000 miles. 300,000 miles. So, if you want to find out the distance in a minute, you multiply that 300,000 by 60 seconds, right? 300,000 miles each time. It takes 8 minutes for us to get there. On Earth, when you turn on a flashlight and that light goes 300,000 miles, it's instant. Well, for the sun, when the sun turns on its flashlight, we are in darkness for 8 minutes, and that sun is shining, right? That's why when we talk about looking into space with telescopes, we're looking into the past, because it has taken millions and billions of light years for that light to reach us. So, Earth to the sun, a relatively short cosmic distance, right? 94 million miles. The diameter of our solar system, right? So if you take our solar system and put the edge, which is right about the Oort cloud, which is basically when you get out of our local solar system, right? And that is where the Voyager satellites are at now, right? They have passed the horizon of our solar systems. That diameter is about 178 billion miles across. 178 billion miles across. So the next closest sun in our Milky Way galaxy to us is it's Alpha Centauri A, which is around 4.25 light years away. So what that means is that if we are traveling at the speed of light, that roughly 300,000 miles per second, it would take us 4.25 years to get to that point traveling at that speed of light. And with that being said, it shouldn't have to be said that we can't travel anywhere near that now, right? We have to have super powerful particle accelerators to shoot the smallest parts of atoms to get to that fast, or even close to that fast, right? The smallest pieces of our physical existence are the things that we can get that fast right now, or close to that now. And that's under immense energy, immense, the engineering and the physics behind that stuff is just absolutely mind-boggling, right? So even if we had a vehicle that could travel that fast, it would still take us 4.25 light years to get there. That's how many years, right? It would take us around that same time to travel to Mars with the technology that we have. So in the same time that we could travel to Mars now, if we had a vehicle that could travel that fast, it would take us to our next closest star. So now we're getting bigger and bigger. So the next thing, the Earth to the galactic center of our Milky Way, which we're not near the galactic center, we're on one of the arms, is around 25,800 light years away. All right, so now if we had a spaceship that could go that fast, for us to get to our galactic center, it would take us almost 26,000 years to get there. Now, keep in mind, and I'm going to go over this later when I start talking about the time, recorded human history has only been around for the last 5,000 years. So that means for us to get to our galactic center going the speed of light, we would need 5 times the amount of time that we've had recorded human history for, just to get there. That's traveling. It's the longest road trip. So now, our next closest galaxy, which is the Andromeda Galaxy, from our Milky Way point to the Andromeda is around 2.5 million light years. All right. So up until this point, we've been dealing with, if we're looking at, we're comparing this to monetary value, right? From Earth, or from our sun to Alpha Centauri A, the closest sun, it'd be 4.25 light years away. All right, so that is, we have $4.25, right? From Earth to our galactic center, we have $26,000 if we're comparing light years and money right now. Now, to our next closest galactic neighbor, we immediately become millionaires. Because that is they are 2.5 million light years away. So starting from our galactic center, going to the Andromeda Galaxy, it would take us, going the speed of light, 2.5 million years. Modern humans have only been around for 200,000 years. So Earth, and we could go further and further, right? Because there are, in our galaxy, there's in our galaxy, there's an estimate to be about 1.5 trillion suns. That means that there's 1.5 trillion stars like ours, similar to ours, bigger, smaller, different stages of their lives, all of those things. But there is 1.5 trillion of them. That is 1,500,000,000,000,000 suns. Now, the average, we kind of guesstimate that the average galaxy has around 100 million suns. So for us, we are abundant in suns in our galaxy. But the average galaxy, we estimate to have 100 million suns. So, how many galaxies are there in the universe? Well, we estimate that to be around 2 trillion galaxies. 2 trillion galaxies. So, 2 followed by 12 zeros. And each one of those, on average, has 100 million suns. Like, just talking about the numbers blows your mind, right? So in the last couple of years, we did the first imaging of a event horizon for a black hole. We couldn't get the image of a black hole because, by definition, a black hole is black. It's dark. We can't, observe it. We don't have any input. But the event horizon gives off energy, gives off data, gives off information. And so in the last couple of years, we decided to, have the photographic proof that black holes existed, because up until that point, they were a kind of just a hypothetical theory, right? There are certain laws of physics that we said, ooh, those stars over there aren't doing what they should be doing. Let's come up with something that makes them do what they're supposed to be doing in our laws of physics. And that's how we kind of invented black holes. And over time, as we learned more and more and observed more and more on our cosmic level, we were like, oh, black holes are, there's a lot of evidence for them. And so finally we got to the point with our technology that said, okay, we can look at the event horizon and get the information from the event horizon. So a couple of years ago, we pointed a bunch of satellites around the Earth, essentially making a Earth-sized telescope, and pointed it at this black hole. Now, this black hole, the only image of a black hole or the event horizon on a black hole that we have is, and this black hole is 6.5 million times the mass of our sun. In a small area. So this is an immensely dense object in a teeny tiny area. And so we pointed our telescopes at it and got its picture. And that the one image of a black hole that we have is 55 million light years away. 55 million light years away. So from the Milky Way to the Andromeda Galaxy, our closest galactic neighbors is 2.5 million light years. And so from Earth to this black hole is 55 million light years away. And by the way, they think that all galactic centers have a supermassive black hole similar to this M87 black hole. And there's actually, since when we started recording, pointing our telescopes into our galactic center of the Milky Way, we've actually seen the stars closest to this black hole circling them hyper fast. And you can look that video up. It's amazing. So this brings me to the biggest part of this. So even our galactic neighbor, 2.5 million years light years away, Earth to the image of the black hole, or the black hole that we have the image of, 55 million light years away. So we're still in the millions. Now, the observable universe, it is estimated to be right now to be about 93 billion light years across. 93 billion light years across. So just from this, we went from having $4.25 in our light years money from from the sun to Alpha Centauri A to Earth to the galactic center. Now we are, still, we're right above the poverty line. We're doing okay. We're doing okay for someone who is only supporting themselves in a very cheap studio apartment, eating the bare minimum for food and expenses, right? Earth to galactic center, 26,000 light years away. We're doing okay. Now, from the Milky Way to the Andromeda, 2.5. Now, from Earth to that black hole, 55 million. So the observable universe is 93 billion light years across. Mind-boggling, right? Absolutely insane. So, because we know that space isn't just made up of space, it's made up of time, right? Space-time. So now let's look at time at this scale, right? So as I mentioned before, recorded human history started 5,000 years ago, just about 5,000 years ago. Biologically modern humans, so same brain capacity, same computational abilities, same everything, 200,000 years ago. So that means recorded history has only recorded 5% of modern human history, right? 95% of human history is unrecorded. So we take that, we say, all right, 200,000 years. Like that's, if you have $200,000, you're doing pretty well. Not too terrible. And then we start looking at the scope in terms of in terms of Earth history, right? Dinosaurs went extinct 65 million years ago. And before that, they had been around for millions and millions and hundreds of millions of years. Life on Earth began 3.5 billion years ago. The Earth itself was created 4.543 billion years ago, just about, right? All of these things are kind of guesstimations. And our Earth is a little bit older, our sun is a little bit older than that at 4.603 billion years ago, right? So they were created around the same time, and for an entire billion years, our Earth was totally devoid of life, right? And whether that was life happened through comets hitting Earth and bringing certain amino acids that we needed, or just the primordial natural events that were happening on Earth, they brought out those amino acids that started to build themselves into structures, into single-celled organisms, into multi-celled organisms, into plant and animal life, into, you know, the life structures that we know now. It happened a billion years, you know. So then we go back to human history, right? And everybody's kind of heard that if you put the Earth's history on a 24-hour clock, humans have been around for less than a second, right? 24-hour clock, and we've been around for less than a second. And within that less than a second, we've only been recording history for 5% of that less than a second. So Earth has been around, excuse me, the sun has been around, the sun and Earth have been around for around 4.5 billion years. So the universe, it's estimated to be around 14 billion years, right? 13.8 billion years old. 13.8 billion years. And it's estimated to continue to go on for somewhere between, lower estimates put around like another 5 billion years to potentially 100 trillion years. And what most physicists say the end of the universe is, or would look like, would be at that time all black holes. The only cosmic things out there are black holes, and they're supermassive black holes. And so there's, you know, these supermassive black holes rotating out in space, and if they get close enough, their gravity comes and pulls them together to make, you know, a more dense, a bigger black hole, a bigger black hole. And black holes actually do emit some sort of radiation, so they're not totally black, they're not totally dark. They do emit some sort of radiation. It's called Hawking radiation. And so as the life of the black hole goes on, it slowly shrinks as it emits this Hawking radiation, right? And so that is, and the Hawking radiation is essentially the information and data, and by information and data we mean, you know, on a quantum level, like the electrons and the photons and the smallest building blocks of what we could recognize as something. Those all go into a black hole, and what comes out is this Hawking radiation. And the Hawking radiation is has no relation to what went in. So if I threw my water bottle into a black hole, what would come out would look nothing like my water bottle, and there would be no way to say, oh, that cluster of radiation is my water bottle. So as these black holes, these supermassive black holes, the only things left in existence in the universe are these supermassive black holes that are slowly kind of burning themselves out, emitting this Hawking radiation that is essentially static garbage of what went into it. And eventually those massive black holes will disappear. All that will be left is Hawking radiation. And even that just kind of slowly disperses out into nothingness, right? That's kind of what physicists generally think of as the end of our universe. So some people think that's going to happen in the next 5 billion years, 100 trillion years. Either way, humanity will be gone. So now let's go back the other way, to the beginning of time. So as I'm sure, you know, you've heard, is that the universe is expanding, right? And it expanded from a single point, this Big Bang theory. And I started this video off talking about how, kind of having this secular mindset about how the universe happened, I think is much more profound than having, the God created things in this time, right? And what I think is important about the Big Bang Theory, and that so many theists, those who believe in God, so many theists, and especially people who, look at their world through the lens of Judeo-Christian and Islamic faiths, right? The religions that come from the Judaic root. They look at it and say, no, that doesn't work for us. The Big Bang doesn't work for us. And what I think is interesting is that the foundation for the Big Bang Theory actually came from a priest. For him, that wasn't, God doesn't exist because of this. It was part of God's plan, part of his creation, how he created it. And I think it's interesting that, this was from a priest. So what the Big Bang essentially is that all matter in the universe, in the same way that black holes take in the matter around them because their gravity is so large, and there's such a dense object that they take all of the matter around them and condense it to such a small area that is how they get their gravitational pull, how they keep all of the information in them, how they make sure that light doesn't escape, right? They're so dense and so small that they have all this matter. As we said, that the supermassive black hole was 6.5 million times the density of our sun. So that means that you take 6.5 million of our suns and condense them to this point that is that is so much smaller than the masses indicate, right? So for our universe, our entire universe, right, those 2 trillion galaxies with the 100,000 suns in each of them, with planets just like ours, across the 93 billion light years of our galaxy, of our universe, was condensed to a point smaller than a photon. Or smaller than an electron, excuse me. The building blocks of atoms, right? With so many of us when we were in school, we were taught that atoms are the smallest building blocks, right? No. There's things that make up atoms. And the entire universe, everything that you see around us, my water bottle, which is, I'm loving my example with the water bottle, me, the paper, this house, our planet, everything was collapsed to a point that is so mind-bogglingly small that we don't even have like microscopes to look at things that are that small now, that are supposed to be that small. Everything collapsed into something that was smaller than a point. And then all of a sudden it went boom, and the universe happened, the Big Bang. So, the shortest interval of time that humans have ever measured was 247 zeptoseconds. And the way that we measured that was a light photon, once again, remember, traveling at 300,000 miles per second, passing a hydrogen molecule. A hydrogen molecule. Hydrogen molecule. So if we take the smallest molecule of water that we can possibly have, it is still comprised of 2 H molecules, 2 hydrogen molecules, and 1 oxygen, right? H2O. And we separated that so that we only had 1 hydrogen molecule and shot a beam of light across it, and we measured that. Once again, like I said, when we turn a flashlight on Earth, it's instant to us. So we measured it from this incomprehensibly small distance, an instant, and we got 247 zeptoseconds. Which, if you need some context for that is a zeptosecond is a trillionth of a billionth of a second. So that is 247 trillionth of a billionth of a second. Another way to write that is 10 to the negative 21th degree of a second. So that is 10, if I'm remembering my exponents correctly, that is 0.2201 of a second. So at the beginning of the universe, things happen so fast and over such a minuscule point in time that we need something called a Planck scale, right? And there's Planck measurements for both space and time. So one Planck measurement is essentially the one Planck measurement of time is the time it takes to get across one Planck measurement of space. And a Planck time, once again, my exponents aren't super great, so bear with me. One Planck, so remember the zeptosecond is 10 to the negative 21st power. So a Planck time is 10 to the negative 44th power. Negative 44th power. So that is 0.450 of a second. So mind-boggling small measurements. Now, within that time, when the universe, everything in the universe was condensed to a point smaller than a single point, and within the first Planck second, the first Planck measurement of time, the universe expanded so rapidly, and everything in the universe was so packed in and condensed that we can't even fathom what that would look like. And so on a physical level, right, we have, generally speaking, kind of like 4 laws of physics, right? We have gravity, we have strong nuclear force, weak nuclear force, and an electromagnetic force. And right now, kind of the outlier for our, people talk about general relativity and quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics is things at an incredibly small scale. General relativity is at a generally, a huge scale, a cosmic scale, planets, black holes, those things. And quantum mechanics is like quarks and, the smallest elements of atoms. And right now they're incompatible. Right now they're incompatible, and what is the sticking point is gravity. And it is through the physical models that we have of the Big Bang, it is shown that at one point, strong and weak nuclear force were combined, so there was only 3 forces in the universe, and then that super nuclear force was combined to electromagnetic force, and so that is super nuclear force or something. I don't remember the name off the top of my head for that one. However, at the dawn of the Big Bang, all 4 of them were combined into one law of physics. So within that first Planck time, first Planck scale, within the first 0.045 second one of time of the dawn of the universe, everything was a singular mass of energy and potential and breakdown, we would say breakdown of the laws of physics. And as this point rapidly expanded, within the first 3 seconds, the universe went from a point that was 100 billion times smaller than a proton, which is one of the smallest building blocks of atoms, 100 billion times smaller than one of the smallest parts of an atom. The universe expanded from that to the size of around a grapefruit in like 3 seconds. So even that is still nuts. That everything in the universe, everything in that 93 billion light year expanse of universe, those 2 trillion galaxies with 100,000 suns in all of those galaxies, was in the size of a grapefruit, this big, a grapefruit, within the first 3 seconds of existence. And in that grapefruit, there was matter and antimatter and black holes and wormholes, and everything was this foam of primordial cosmic or quantum mess. Something that we can't when we do our physics experiments in the quantum particle accelerators and all of those things, that we get such a small fraction of a glimpse of what that would look like. It's incredible. And from that point, 14 billion years ago, from that point, everything has spread out since then. And everything has taken the shape and form of the matter that we know and experience here now. And for me, when I hear about, these religions and revelation, right? John's revelation is about, the end of the world, right? God coming down, Jesus coming down and having, major catastrophes happen, and then eventually Day of Judgment happens, and God comes down and saves all of those who are worthy and smites all of those who are unworthy. And those religions and those dogmas and doctrines, for me, they're so confining, they're so constricting. When you look at the beauty and majesty of this, and once again, I'm going to keep saying secular, but this scientific model and understanding of our universe is so much more impressive and gives God that ineffable mystery quality, and also gives us such gives humanity a bigger potential in that cosmic discussion, right? So, all right, God created light, God created water, God, did this. Humans can create water, humans can create light, and as science progresses, we're learning how to create new life forms, right? Through genetics and cloning and animal hybrids and all of these things, right? We're learning how to create life. None of that's super impressive to me. But when you look at those numbers that I was talking about and how incomprehensible they are to us, like, that is the majesty and mystery of the divine at work. And I think that it is total arrogance for us as humans to say, God said that we're special, He created the world for us, and He created the world for us, and He's going to end it for us too. For me, that's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If you think that the world's going to end, why bother? Why not hasten that end, right? But if we see ourselves on that divine cosmic structure, or that cosmic timeline, we see how insignificant we are. We are less than insignificant. And for me, that's so comforting. For me, that shows how much God loves us. The fact that we are here now experiencing this world, this universe, this unique makeup of structure and physical laws that also will change as the universe ages as well. There's another notion called entropy, and entropy is essentially the passage of time. It's essentially going from organization to chaos, right? It's that the Big Bang started with everything being in the center, and at the end of the universe, like I said, that Hawking radiation will be everything, but it's everything dispersed out forever in infinity. And for me, that's so, like, that doesn't, a lot of people would say, like, that's nihilism, right? Like, nothing matters. And for me, that means that, it's not that nothing matters. It's that everything matters here right now, right? This is the only time that we get to experience. And, and I kind of started this off with talking about the secular worldview. And I think that we can take that to our personal lives as well. I'm talking about big cosmic areas about this, because this is the things that I've been really looking at and learning about. But if we look at that at our lives, we see that nothing is guaranteed in the future, right? I have my beliefs, and I have my beliefs, and there's an Alan Watts lecture that I was listening to, and he was talking about how there's a difference between faith and belief. And the root word of belief comes from leaf, which is like a wish. And so the way that Alan Watts made a differentiation between faith and belief is that belief is like a wish. I wish this to be true. I wish that there is a heaven. I wish that there is divine beings that will come down at the day of judgment and say, you're good and you're bad, right? That I will be saved and be rewarded for my good work, and that the people who were against me, didn't believe in my God, that persecuted me, they will be punished. I believe that, right? Now, faith, and you can say that belief is also just in a divine being as well, right? I believe that there's a divine being. I believe that there is gods or consciousness or whatever. And faith, the way that Alan Watts described it, was faith was essentially surrender, right? Putting trust in whatever is out there. Right? I live my life. I have my beliefs, right? I have my wishes. I have my thoughts on the afterlife and what will happen and what consciousness is and X, Y, Z. Those are my beliefs, right? But I live my life in faith, and I live my life in faith that whatever happens, happens. And a part of that is knowing that I don't know what the afterlife will be, right? We can look at near-death experiences and afterlife experiences, but we don't really know. We can say that that's all electrochemical hallucinations that happen at the end of life, regardless of how eerily similar they are to everyone, and what they mean, all of those things, right? That's still belief. Now, faith is trusting in what is in here and now, and what will unfold regardless of what that is, right? When I pray, I try not to pray for things, right? Because that's beliefs, that's wishes, I pray that my cancer will be cured. I pray that, that whatever. But when I pray, I try not to pray for that. I say, pray, give me what I need, right? I'm having faith that whatever I need will come to me. And that might mean that my cancer is cured. That might mean that it will kill me faster. That might mean that, all of these different things, right? And I have to have faith that I'm going to be here and accept that. And the way that I look at that in terms of afterlife and living my life currently is that there's a Buddhist teacher that I was listening to, and he said, people always ask me what happens when we die. And he was like, my response is, well, what was it like before you were living? What was it like before you were born? Now, if we think about that, right? My earliest memory is probably around like 3, 4, maybe 5. I don't have a super great memory. My childhood. And before that, it's just blank. Nothing there. So, with the information that we have to assume that that's going to be the same when we die. And I think that the existence of a soul or external consciousness doesn't change that. Because where we're at here and now is living our life and living with our internal consciousness in these biological bodies, right? We don't know what it's like outside of these biological bodies. And so I think that if there is a soul or external consciousness, right? And what I mean by external consciousness, I mean that our brains are basically just big antenna, big conduits for that consciousness, and that is what we experience, is the cosmic consciousness channeled into a receiver that separates that cosmic consciousness into individual internal consciousness. So regardless of if it's a soul, whatever, our experience after we leave our physical bodies will be fundamentally different and incomprehensible to us. So when you think about what it's like to be dead, think about what it's like to have existed before you were born. And I think that for me, that makes this place and this realm of existence and this way of being that much more profound. I'm not taking anything for granted here, because I will never, as far as I know, I will never experience this ever again. And an important indicator is that it also makes my morality that much more pure. And what I mean by that, when I say that and I hear those words and I say, ooh, that makes me sound like, I'm better, than others with their moralities. And I don't think that. There's a TV show called The Good Place, and I think that they illustrated this perfectly. There's it's about the afterlife and morality, and it's a really good show, very funny. It's a comedy, and they talk about if you're doing good deeds for a reward, if you're doing good deeds to be rewarded in heaven and not punished in hell, you're not doing those good deeds because they're good. You're doing those good deeds for the reward, which intrinsically takes away the morality of those good deeds. But if you're doing those good deeds because they are fundamentally good, that is where the morality comes from. I don't kill people not because it won't get me into heaven. I don't kill people because that's fundamentally bad. I don't rape people, which I have to say, I think that it is incredible that in this day and age, when I say I don't rape people and I don't sexually assault people, that I say that with some pride. And that is insane to me, that not sexually assaulting my fellow human beings is a source of pride in this day and age. That I can say for a fact that I have never raped someone or taken advantage of somebody, hands down, right? In this day and age, it seems like not a lot of people can say it. But my morality isn't based on that. I'm going to be punished or I'm going to be rewarded in heaven. It is that those things are fundamentally bad and that they hurt my fellow human being and that they take away from the beauty that is here and now for my fellow human being. And I don't want somebody to do that to me, and I'm not going to do it to them. And I'm going to treat them as they want me to treat them. So with all that being said, I think that secular way of being is beautiful. I think that it will help us to live so much clearer and morally in the here and now. And that's how I try to live my life as well, moving forward. So with that being said, living my life moving forward, my ablation was scheduled for a couple of weeks ago to remove that the new tumor in my liver, and I was brought into the site, went to the hospital to get this procedure done. And the way that they do it is they put you out and they do a scan, so they can have real-time image or up-to-date imaging. Then they do the procedure, they wake you up, and they kind of debrief you. And what happened for me was that they put me out, they put me in the scan, and then they woke me up because the scan showed that tumor had grown basically 150% bigger than it was before, and that made the ablation an impossible procedure to do. And also, there's a new tumor in my liver. So for a while we said, we might just start a whole new round of systemic treatment, right? I did another scan that, was looking at my full body, because that previous scan was really just kind of looking at my focusing on my liver and my abdomen. So they did a full body scan and they said, there isn't anything else. There's nothing anywhere else. So it's only in my liver. Which is kind of like the best worst case scenario. And so what we're doing moving forward is that there's going to be targeted treatment for the 2 spots in my liver, and I'm going to be staying off of my chemo. So I'm going to be off of my systemic treatment, and they're going to address the two tumors in my liver, and then I'm basically going to get scanned a month after, and then 2 months after, and then 3 months after. Essentially, what we're doing here is kind of like letting, when you prune a bush, you prune it so it all comes in, and then you let it grow back out, right, before you prune it again. So for me, and the limited number of future systemic treatments that I have available to me, and the efficacy, at least of the next one, is a short period of time. So it's really only effective for a couple of years, or excuse me, a couple of months. So they want, it's about kind of balancing that. All right, do we want him on a systemic treatment that might give him more side effects, that might not work, and it would only work potentially for a short period of time? Or do we want to see how long that pruned bush takes to come back to be a problem before we prune it again with the systemic treatment, right? So the targeted treatments are kind of chopping away those stray branches inside of me. And really, once again, like, everything at this point is strategy about how to buy me time, how to prolong my life as much as possible. So there is some, kind of counterintuitive things, right? It doesn't quite make sense to say, oh, well, you want to keep this person alive longer. Why are you stopping a treatment that helps that? It's kind of one of those things that is a little bit counterintuitive, but when you think a little bit more critically about it, it starts to make sense. And luckily, I can and do think critically, and also my doctor is fantastic at explaining things to me and taking the time to answer my questions. And when I kind of stare at him like, I don't know what you're talking about, he'll explain it in a different way, and it'll help me understand. So that's kind of what's happening right now. Like I said, I'm off of my chemo, which makes me feel happy. It makes me feel a little bit more normal, so that I don't have to, I don't have a bunch of pills to take. I don't have a bunch of side effects to deal with. So that's awesome. I love that. And then I'm going to have these procedures in my liver sometime within the next couple of weeks. And then after that, it's just going to be scans from month to month. Yeah, month to month. So this is my longest video so far, and I wanted to kind of take it in a different direction from last week, my last video, because that was pretty heavy topic. So I wanted to talk about something that has been on my mind and is very interesting to me, and I'm going to put a link to my recommended videos, my playlist of recommended videos, which talks a lot about this. I have a lot of videos on there about physics and spirituality and lectures and philosophy and all of these things that I've been really kind of diving into in the last couple of months, last couple of years, that I've shared with a couple of my family members and a couple of my friends, and they've loved those videos as well, and they've really helped me to give me a nice framework and kind of some mental chewing gum to keep the gears going up there. So I'll put the link to that in the description. Check out those videos. Please feel free to share my video. Once again, I know that it's long. This is an hour video, and I will try to make my videos a little bit more shorter and succinct in the future. But anybody who knows me knows that I love to talk, and I love all of the context and background information for everything that I talk about. I love getting that full picture. So I partway apologize for that and partway totally own up to it, because that's just who I am. So please, share this with people, if you think that it's interesting and helpful. Yeah, and just thank you for being here and listening to me and supporting me with what's going on in my life. I've been really feeling from doing these videos, really feeling that energy and that feedback from people, which has been huge. So keep praying for me. I'm going to put a link to my GoFundMe in the bottom, so if you are called to donate, please do so. But honestly, I think that spreading my videos and the topics that I have, to me, are much more important than the monetary donations at this point. So thank you. I appreciate you being here with me for this time today. Thank you. Mitakuye, Oyasin.